One of the things that I think uh, is overlooked in communities, especially communities of color, is what is actually happening in terms of nutrition and health and how they are related to a lot of the concerns that we have in the community. What I've learned in the years of working in natural and organic retail and in uh, farming is that we really, at many times, we really are at the mercy of whoever is providing the food, and um, they are also at the mercy of whoever the producer or distributor is. And one thing that I've learned is by um, applying synthetic pesticides and fertilizers to the soil and subsequently to the food, the root system, we are ingesting or we're taking up those synthetics that are bioaccumulated in the foods that we eat. So there's a cause. I mean, there's a cost related to that, and that cost is often in nutritional deficiency as well as introducing what I consider dangerous chemicals into our bodies. And these are the things that have such a direct effect on us in terms of health, probably greater than any other thing that affects us health wise. Whether it's our diets, our particular diets, environmental issues, social issues such as racial profiling, brutality, even just inner community violence. Those things are happening as well at an alarming rate. But when we are not aware of what it is that we're ingesting, what it is that we're using to feed ourselves, we still get the feeling of fullness and we might have the appearance of health. But in reality, there are things going on in our bodies and in our cells related to the chemicals that we're taking in. These chemicals can be natural occurring chemicals, and they can be introduced through synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, and also other environmental toxins. So I think it's important to start to have the conversation around precisely where our food comes from and how it got to be this way. So what I'd like to talk about right now is something that I think is critically important, especially for people of color, and it is addressing the issue of what has been called food deserts, communities where they are not receiving proportionally the amount of nutritional and healthy food as other communities are, whether it's a lack of stores or whether the stores that we tend to patronize don't have the options in terms of fresh fruits and vegetables and other nutritious foods. And so, in observing the things that I've observed over the years, one of the things that I realize is that a lot of this is driven by economy, marketing. People have determined that we don't want to invest in food in that way. We don't want to invest in our health in that way as it relates to making choices about the type of foods that we purchase. I feel like a lot of that is biased. A lot of the the market studies that tend to determine whether or not stores are going to open in different communities. I feel like those are biased as well. And to me, just like the most simple fact of the matter is we all need to eat. We all need to eat food. And people are limited to what's available to them. So we have spent years sort of begging stores to relocate or to expand into our communities to feed us. And I feel like that's something that we really need to be thinking about. I mean, if it's so critical for our overall health and well-being and our strength, and not just us personally, but what starts to happen genetically to our offspring, as we continue to rely on um, foods that are less in nutrition and in the nutritional value that we need. for our bodies to be able to maintain. We initially, I would say, in the early 20th century at least, most of the food that we consumed was food that we grew. We were dependent on ourselves largely because of racism and Jim Crow and legislation, and that continued to be the case probably up until about uh, the, the the 60s. I would say the 60s, where the Civil Rights Act sort of opened the doors and allowed for more integration into other areas, and we tended to, I think, more than anything, just because we felt like those were the better options for us than the things that lay right in front of us. And so I'm proposing a return to the idea of feeding ourselves. I think that's one of the most basic um, things that we can do, that any community can do, to try to establish some level of autonomy. But I think it's also important because we need to be close to the production. We need to understand what's happening more in the food that we eat. We can read labels and we can buy certified organic and we can buy non-GMO. We can do all of those things. And there's some loss in nutrition just based on the processing that happens to get that stuff, whether it's through, the storage, long term storage necessary for shipping, and then just other factors that go into it. As a farmer, I realize there's some seeds that produce better than other seeds. There's some methods that we can use to increase our yields, which might not actually contribute in a great way to the nutritional value of the produce. So the reason that I do regenerative agriculture specifically is to try to enrich the soil and make sure that the soil is capable of providing the nutrients needed to feed the plants, the vegetables, and the fruits that we grow, and so that those plants can therefore provide us with the nutrients that we need for our basic survival. And we're talking about micronutrients, trace minerals and things like that, that might not necessarily register on a large scale in terms of how we look at nutrition, but are complementary to all of the sort of larger macronutrients and minerals and vitamins that we know. So trying to create an environment that allows for more of that uptake of those minerals is really my goal in terms of practicing regenerative agriculture. But one of the things that I realized years ago working in these stores is that we have um, probably a greater dependence on outside sources for food. And by we, I mean communities of color. We have a greater dependence probably than anyone else in the nation. And I think that has put us in the position of having to be hopeful at best that we're getting the best that we can get in terms of what's provided. I think that's an easy switch. I think there's opportunities for us to grow our own food, whether it be backyard gardens or community gardens, or really just getting to know, who your farmer is, having a relationship with your local farmer and trying to support them and also encourage them to practice in a way that they're ensuring that there's more nutritional value in the food. Some of that can happen just with the freshness. Like I said, with the storage and shipping and things like that, you lose a lot of nutrition, in that process. I support, farmers markets and stores that try to buy more local. I think those things are all great, and I think that those are sort of the low-hanging fruit opportunities. If you go to a farmer's market, you're likely to actually get a fresher product. If you go to a store that sources local, you're also likely to get a fresher product and a more nutritious product. But if we start putting some energy into taking advantage of what opportunities might lie in front of us, whether that's you growing your own food or whether you just taking a look around your community and say, hey, there's a vacant lot. Let's see if we can work with some of our local legislators or politicians to have access to that area and start to practice some level of regenerative agriculture to support our community. That's really, to me, a very simple way of addressing this issue, and it's what I would like to try to encourage more people